So at the time of this recording, about a week ago from now, which is October 2025, it was a week ago, I sent out a message on Instagram just asking people for recommendations for potential guests on the show. I love any guest that's a recommendation from somebody, because sometimes you'd be surprised at what your inner circle of people in your community, they might know somebody who knows somebody or someone, right? Well, Trey Lott, shout out to Trey from High Country Clips on Instagram, for getting back to me and telling me about our guest today, DJ Clark, who had an opportunity. He played at Idaho State for football in college, and then he had a stint with the Panthers as well as the Packers, along with a multitude of workouts for different organizations in the NFL. And you're going to hear that story today about the whole entire process from starting in the 6th grade, going on, how his recruitment from high school to college didn't go as well as planned and what he would do differently, but how he ended up at Idaho State, some of the ups and downs that he went through there, even from a cultural standpoint inside the community itself in Pocatello, Idaho, and then just how he continued to push forward, how he had a good career, and then his whole stint going into the NFL. Now, that's a story that I want you guys to pay attention to as well, just his whole NFL story, because when you're not one of the quote-unquote top dogs, right, the starters who knows that they have a roster spot and you're fighting to make a roster, it is extremely stressful when you're a rookie and you're just trying to make a name for yourself and you're going against top dogs everywhere you go, and no day is guaranteed. And so you get to hear a little bit about that as well. So this is a really cool opportunity. I'm really grateful for this chance to speak with DJ, because you're going to learn a lot from him and what he would do differently. Some of his failures, some of his successes, and some of the messed up stuff about the politics of football too. It's kind of interesting, but I hope you guys tap into this one, take some notes, and enjoy this episode of the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. Shane Larson here, host of the show. Excited to have you guys here with me. Almost 9 years running into the podcast. We've been doing this since January 2017. And I say this every time we do another episode. I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I genuinely mean that. For anybody who's tuning in for the first time, I want to say thank you for joining us and giving it a chance, coming to listen to our guest and learning something on the podcast. The whole reason I did this, back when I was at Boise State, I was a 28-year-old senior in college trying to figure stuff out, and I was working a full-time job, and Bob Beeler was my mentor, and he told me to start recording something, and so I did that with a purpose, and the purpose of that was to bring a different perspective to the sports world, a different type of thing, and run my own show instead of working for somebody else. And so because of that, now we flash forward almost 9 years later. The reason I brought that up is because now this has been heard on the audio side in 183 countries and in all 50 states. And so it's grown worldwide, and I'm grateful for everybody for tuning in. And so if this is your first time, welcome aboard. Now, all that to be said, I am still trying to build my YouTube channel out, as most of you guys know, and some of that you don't. I did not start posting my stuff on YouTube until it was, years later. And so I've only been consistently posting the video content for like 3 or 4 years. Would love for you guys to follow me over there, as I'm still trying to get that platform up and running. So hit the follow button over there. But anyway, as you guys heard in the intro, really exciting opportunity. I reached out on Instagram to a couple people and I said, hey, do you guys have any recommendations? I get hit up and our guest's name comes up. I was like, you have to interview DJ Clark. He's got a story, but it's not told enough. So we need to make sure it gets out there. So hit him up, and here we are. DJ, thanks for joining the show, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, brother. So, before we get into the coaching side of things, which is kind of where, you're at right now, I want to kind of flash back a little bit and get to learn about DJ Clark, the athlete, DJ Clark, the person. And now we'll also get to learn about the coach later, but I kind of want to unpack a couple of things. So DJ, you got some Idaho ties on the college side of things. I know, some ISU roots and so forth, but before, let's go back. Where did you grow up, and what sports did you start playing when you were a younger kid?
So I grew up Oceanside, California. It's in like the San Diego County. And I didn't start playing sports until, I played basketball I've got an older brother who's about 2 years older than me. So like when I was in second grade, I had to play up and to play like fourth grade with him. So I was no good doing that. And then I didn't play anything until sixth grade. And then that's when I started playing football. Football, wrestling, and track is what I played. So all started all three at the same time, same year.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So football, wrestling, and track. That's actually good to know. Sixth grade is kind of when you got started. Now,
Yep.
what's interesting about that, though, I want people to take note. If your kid is, I mean, these days we're getting our kids started in sports at a younger age, and even club competitive sports at a young age, which is kind of crazy. It's a different era. But I want people to note that you didn't really start playing competitive sports until the sixth grade. So parents, take note of that as we move forward in the interview. When you were in California at that time, DJ, did they have like any club sports, or was there Pop Warner? What were the leagues that you were playing in down in Southern California?
So we do have Pop Warner. It was one of those things my mom kept telling me ever since I was 8. She's like, I'll put you on, I'll put you in, I'll put you in. And then I think she just kept telling me I was on the waiting list. It probably wasn't true. But so just kept waiting. And then eventually, once I started school a whole year early. So when I was 10, I was in sixth grade. So I started technically when I was 10. And so that was when kind of everything started from there.
Wow. Okay. So you were actually pretty young. You're probably like me. So were you 16 or 17 when you graduated high school?
I was 17. I was 17 all the way through my first semester of college. So yeah, November, end of November, I'll say that. Very, very end.
That's wild, DJ. Because I always say I was a young kid too. I was 17 for my senior year. I was August 28th is my birthday, but I was 16 as a senior for a week, and then I was 17 as a freshman in college for 2 weeks because they started early at Boise State. But I always make jokes. I've never heard of somebody else like really doing that. That's crazy.
I've never heard anybody younger than me. Yeah,
that's crazy. So I actually want to touch base on that in a second, but growing up, so California football, the reason I even brought that up about the Pop Warner style and just kind of like what it's like down there, the vibe, is because about 4 or 5 years ago, I did this mini series on this podcast with the OG Ducks, which is like this club team that comes out of, they were the Inland Empire Ducks, and they went to OG Ducks, and like they've produced a lot of talent coming out of there. I don't know if they were around, if that was kind of around when you were playing, but that's the reason I wanted to bring that up, is because the football in California is at a very, very high level. So I would like to ask your opinion, having started in the sixth grade, 10 years old, what would you say in comparison to that of like maybe here in Idaho? What's the competition level in California?
I'm old now, so it's tough to remember back in like sixth grade and stuff. But so way I started off, I was actually like a 10 play kid. And I didn't know it at the time until like I got into like high school. And I had a cousin who was on the same team as me, and he was in like the whole time. He started playing when he was a little bit younger. And and so I'm just playing free safety is all I played. And pretty much I was just back there, not doing too much. And so one of my things I always tell parents is like, man, just be patient, like, because not everybody starts off as a superstar. I was definitely being a whole year younger than everybody, it did like, I felt like that was the biggest struggle for me at that time, because 1 year difference, a 10-year-old to an 11-year-old is huge, or a 10-year-old to a 12-year-old is huge. And so the speed, it was just fast. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know. I watched a lot of football growing up, but I didn't know really what was going on, what I was supposed to be doing. I had no knowledge of the game. So literally was just out there, kind of just blanked out really. So
It is interesting. The difference between a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old it's a massive difference. And I say the same thing. I wanted to bring that up. 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, a senior in high school. Dude, it's crazy now, DJ. I see a lot of kids that are, being held back. They're 19-year-old seniors in high school, close to turning 20 by the time they get into their freshman year in college. It's kind of crazy. I always told people when I graduated high school, I was 17. I thought I was okay. I didn't realize the difference in my like physicality and just like my maturity from a physical standpoint until that next year when I turned 18 and I had put a whole year into the weight room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was so much more athletic, so much stronger when I was 18 compared to when I was 17. I didn't even realize it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how seniors in high school are. So like there is a big difference in the age gaps at times when you're younger. And so that probably did play a role into that. As you got into, I guess, you said you played multiple sports, right?
Yeah.
I want to kind of ask about the multi-sport type of thing, the multi-sport track, if you will. Like you got football, track, okay, you got wrestling. How do they all play a role together for you? Do you feel like you benefited from playing multiple sports?
Oh, for sure. I would encourage almost every football player to, if you're going to play football, wrestle and do track. That's my opinion. I know other people, want to do baseball in the spring or may want to do basketball in the winter. But I kind of knew what I wanted to do is like really just focus on football. And so track, my mom ran track in college. And so track was the only thing that really came like natural to me. And then wrestling, it was a funny story. I actually thought it was like back then it was WWF. I literally saw the flyers at school and I was like, oh, I'm going to go wrestle. And I show up there and it's these mats and I'm like, so I stuck with it. I did it all the way through high school. But my tackling, I mean, just knowing how to maneuver your body, not being afraid, it builds up a little bit of confidence and a little bit of courage in you, wrestling. And so a big credit to my tackling is goes to wrestling, and then my speed would be, just being consistent, running track every single year.
Wow. See, do you have an opinion right now? Like I know obviously being in the coaching side of things, you see it most likely like just a lot of kids siloing into one sport, if not just maybe two potentially, but they're playing these sports year round. Even in football, you got sevens going on, and it's like some parents just simply don't have the funds to have them competing in multiple sports all the time, so they choose one that's kind of like their investment into their children. And it's cool because a lot of those kids end up going places, but I don't know. I would just like to hear your thoughts, having been there at a high level in your sport, but also coaching it now and trying to help develop these young kids. Do you see the same issue of siloing into one sport at a younger age? And do you see that what's your opinion on it, I guess, good or bad?
I guess there's a good and a bad.
Sure.
I'll just speak on my kids. They like, so I have one of my boys. Sometimes he's tripled up in sports, and so he'll have his he'll have club basketball, he'll have school track, and he'll have 7-on-7, all in the same time. And so managing those on getting them to, it's almost like every single weekend you're somewhere else. And then with where we live in Idaho, every single weekend you're traveling far. So it is, I mean, it gets expensive. It's time consuming getting them to every single practice. Which sport do you prioritize at the time? Just little different things like that. I think, I don't know, I would say the negative side to that is that you really don't get to be a kid. It takes away a little bit of that free time, compared to just playing year round, nonstop. And so that's one of the negatives that I would say, that I could see to it.
Sure thing. Yeah, I mean that's I'm seeing it. There are some benefits to it. It's not all negative. I hear a lot of negativity towards it. And I don't necessarily think it's all negative that kids are playing like year round with certain sports, but it is harder. It's a different era, and it's just one of those things we got to try to find the positives out of it. And ultimately, what you want for your kids and what they want for themselves too, is a big thing in my opinion. DJ, like as you were getting into high school, at what point did you realize? I mean, you're competing in these multiple sports. Did you realize like football was your thing? At what point did you realize like that you could go to the next level in one of those sports? And when did you choose that football was the thing that you were going to do?
So it was eighth grade.
Okay.
And so I'll call some kids like early developed kids. And I was one of those. So even though I started at 10 years old, I started to really like develop into my body at like 11. And so went through puberty and all that stuff super early before other kids. And so even though I was younger, I was going through puberty before even all the kids that were older than me. And so like my eighth grade year, I was probably one of the biggest ones on my team. And I was bigger, I was stronger, I was faster. And that year I played receiver and I played corner, and I had 10 interceptions in that one season. And then every, catch at receiver that I was doing, it was like I was kind of like Randy Moss's like rookie year, roughly around that time. And so everyone would I was long, I was skinny, I was kind of still skinny because I was eighth grade, I was probably about 5'8" or so, but it was like a real skinny 5'8". And and so I was just getting over top of guys, making catches and everything. And then so they used to call me Randy Moss was one of my first nicknames that I got just because the way I would catch over
It's not a
kids.
bad nickname. Not a bad
No,
nickname.
and so that was kind of when, and then it was kind of like I would hear all the parents on the team like, oh, he's going to go to the NFL. He's going to go to the NFL. I remember us going into like weigh-ins one time, and we're all in the line getting ready to weigh in, and the other team's coach is like, who is this kid? His kid looks like he's 15, looks like he's 15 or 16 years old. And so I was just really developed in the 8th grade, and then that's what kind of got me, and then just kind of carried me all the way through high school. So
No, that's cool. It's cool. And you were mossing people before that was like really popular,
before it was even a thing. Yeah.
It's funny, my 9-year-old never got to watch Randy Moss play, but he'll always, that he watches YouTube and people get mossed, like they're like, and head topping everybody. So it's just funny. I'll have to tell him about this when I'm done with the interview. You were literally one of those guys.
The first.
The first. Yeah, that's dope. In high school, I would love to just touch base on this. I know you coach a lot of kids that are like, following you in the high school realm too, but I have a lot of people that follow me, parents and like student athletes that are at this age, and they're wanting to maybe make it. They might not have aspirations for the NFL, but they do want to play at the next level, whether that be junior college, whether it be at a 4-year, whatever it might be. But I want to talk to them about what it takes, the preparation it takes. I know you were mature physically at a younger age, like you said, but what was your, I guess, training routine? Did you dedicate yourself to the weight room at that time, or were you kind of benefiting just from having more physical maturity than others? What was the training like when you knew that, like, hey, I've got people watching me and I can go play at the next level? I just want to kind of talk to them about the mentality and the physical training that it takes to make sure that you're, continuing to improve so that you can play at the next level.
Yeah. So that for me, it kind of happened after my junior season. I didn't have any like scouts or recruits looking at me yet. And so I was actually walking by one of my coaches, and he was talking to another coach, and he said, oh, he's too little to play at the next level. And so I was like 165 as a junior. And so then I took that to heart. I was like, oh man, like I can't have any restrictions on me. So I kid you not, I don't make this story up. I've got like several people, my mom will kind of attest to it and everything. I actually used to work out 3 times a day. So I'd work out in the morning, and then I'd work out with the team. We'd have usually like our summer conditioning, and then I'd work out at night. And a lot of times I'd have my friends be like, hey, do you want to go out and let's go bowling, or let's go play pool or something like that? And I'm like, I got to work out. And they were like, you already worked out earlier. I was like, I got to work out again. And so, and then also at the time I was working, so I had my own money to be able to buy, like, that's kind of like, I remember Muscle Milk was kind of coming out right around that same time. So I'm buying, cases of Muscle Milk, and, staying dedicated to everything. And I'm eating a ton. I had my cousin is Chris Duhon. He played at Duke and played in the NBA and everything. And so he came down one summer, and my mom was asking him like, "How did you get so big?" And he was just like, "Oh, I just eat like just meat and potatoes." It was pretty much, he kept it simple like that. And so I was like, "Oh, I just got to eat some potatoes." So I'm eating like French fries every single day. I'm eating eggs every single day. Little stuff like that, hot dogs, because it was all cheap stuff. So I could feed myself for like $2. But yeah, no, I just grinded it out, literally for like a whole, I would say that was before the summer. That had to be during like track season that I really actually started like 3 times a day. And now I wouldn't recommend that to a kid, because there is like a little bit of a burnout to it. I never felt a burnout to it. I definitely felt like I had a goal, and I knew that in order to achieve my goal, I had to do more than what anybody else was doing. And so that was just kind of like my mindset into it.
No, that's awesome, man. There is a mindset that's required. I mean, you don't have to necessarily go 3 times a day, but I mean, there is a component to, like, putting on some strength though, and it's going to take time and effort to do that. I think it's interesting when you see kids that are really like talented skill wise, and they just overpower everybody, and then they're at some point, it's interesting when like some of the kids that start lifting, they might not be as talented, but they start lifting, they start training, they start taking it seriously because they know that their talent's not going to get them there alone. And there's oftentimes this, like, whether it be junior year, senior year, where it kind of, you're like, oh, that person now is competing with me. They might not be as skilled as me, but they're competing with me, and they're getting more minutes than me, or they're getting this because they put time in the weight room. They put time in trying to, like, and they're efficient. They're durable. They're reliable, and that type of thing. And so sometimes I see that a lot actually with the kids that I've coached, but I saw it myself too. And so I tell people this, like, I wasn't no like, D1 athlete or anything of that nature, but I played well in basketball. I was a boxer and a basketball player. And so at school for basketball, it was after my sophomore year that I actually started taking the weight room seriously, and it actually helped me because my skill set wasn't quite there. but it was helping me at least be able to compete and stay in the mix with people. And then my senior year, I was finally like built up and I was able to hold my own with the rest of those guys. And I had probably caught up to some of them. So anyway, I just think it's awesome to see. I think it's encouraging for the other athletes to hear that. Like, it's going to take some time and effort, maybe not three workouts a day, but it's going to take time. Yeah, you need to hit the weight room. You've got to work. You got to put on some size if you intend on playing the next level. Now, to that point, as you go to the next level, DJ, what was the process in choosing the school that you were going to play for?
So it was kind of weird for me because I had, so roughly around that same junior year time. So one of the very first, I think it was during my junior year of track. And Pete Carroll was actually the very first coach that had ever called me up. This is why he's at USC. And so he calls me up, hey, the night before, I'm gonna come watch you at track practice, come talk to you and everything. So him and one of the other coaches come down, come talk to me. And literally the very first coach, but then also too at that same day, Idaho State had also called me on that same day, and I heard him wrong. I thought he said Ohio State, and so I was like, dang, USC and Ohio State
Oh, wow.
in the same day. So talked to Pete Carroll and everything, and so then all of a sudden I started getting recruited by, back then it's the Pac-10. Started getting recruited by the whole Pac-10, so USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, everything like that. And this is back even when they would come to your game. So come senior year on the sideline, I remember seeing UCLA, Washington, Oregon, all on the sideline, and just for me. And so at the end of the day, it was just like, I don't know what happened. I really, like, I can't put a thumb on it to like figure out what happened, because I was a super highly recruited guy in high school. And then all of a sudden, Idaho State is just there. They've always like kept on their communication. The recruiter, Nick Whitworth, he's actually a local Idaho guy from Mackey here. And he just stayed like consistent and built this relationship with me. And at the end of the day, ended up being like Idaho State was my only offer. I had a lot of schools that were like, oh, we don't know if we want you to play receiver or if we want you to play DB. I didn't talk very much back then, so I didn't know how to like really respond to anything. They'd ask, oh, which one do you want to play? And I'd probably answer wrong. I'd be like, oh, I want to play DB. And they wanted me to play receiver. Or when I thought they wanted me to play receiver, I would say DB. I was always giving them like the wrong answer. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I made my choice. I had a couple other that were like U of I was really close. I had a visit scheduled with them, but then I just, there was things I just didn't like about the program at that time. And this is years ago, so nothing on them now. I love their program now, what they're doing. But I just didn't agree with it, so I chose Idaho State.
It's interesting, and I got to give a shout out. My friend Cole would love that you just referenced Mackey, Idaho, like small town Mackey, Idaho. That's his favorite place.
He's the Mackey Missile, Nick Whitworth. If he knows Mackey, he knows the Mackey Missile.
Oh, dude, I'll have to hit him up immediately after this. I got my text messages set up right over here. I'm going to text him as soon as this is over. That's so funny. He named his dog after Mackey, so I always hear about Mackey, Idaho. I've never been there. I'm from here, but like I've never been there.
Yeah.
So funny. Okay, so you go to Idaho State, and that's why I was curious, because like looking at, it's a smaller school, right? It's just a smaller school. You got the big school like Boise State here at this part, like down in the south, and then you got the East Idaho stuff over in Pocatello, Idaho, right? So talk to me about the transition going from California to Pocatello, Idaho.
So transition actually wasn't that bad. We had it was like the team back then was built up of a lot of California guys. So it was like mainly California guys from like Compton, Inglewood, Long Beach. A lot of those kind of guys were kind of playing at that time. And so all my roommates were from California, like the Riverside area, another one from San Diego as well. And so the transition as far as like having relatable guys around me was super easy. The transition to now being out of California and being in Idaho, to where in all honesty, like they don't really like, until now it's a little different now, but back then it was like there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me. So when you walk through Walmart, they knew like you played football or you played basketball. It's kind of a thing like that. And so that was the biggest transition. I had I don't know. I almost didn't stick it out. I got pulled over 5 times in 1 week, and I was
Wow.
just like, I know it was crazy. And then so on like that fifth time, I'm like just boohoo crying. I'm still 17, so I'm just boohoo crying to my mom, and I'm just like, I gotta come home. Like I can't do this. Like I don't want to be here anymore. And so I was getting ready to leave, and the ironic part was like the fifth time I got pulled over, we're actually doing this like event for. They were trying to mesh like all the football players and the police officers together. So I'm literally like I'm like half a mile away from the event and I get pulled over. And it was for no, I never got a ticket. I just kept getting pulled over. And so I was like, I got to get out of here. And so, yeah, it was, that was a super hard part, but then it was good. I had basically guys that I consider brothers now, that I came in with and built, really good relationships with back then.
Well, this is important though. Like this is an important piece of that story. So I appreciate you sharing that because it might not even just be like the sports thing. It might not be just the school thing. It could be a culture thing depending on where you're from, where you're going. And I think that's an important piece for kids to know if they're going to choose a school to play for. They're going to be living in that community. I would ask for somebody, maybe they don't go through the exact same thing, but what if it is a cultural thing within the community, not just at the school itself? I guess, how did you get through that? You said you wanted to go, you called your mom, you had your friends on the team, but like, how did you power through that? Pulled over 5 times. Obviously you probably felt some type of way at the time. You're a young kid.
Yeah.
So I guess, what advice would you give, DJ, if somebody else is struggling with the culture within a community of where they're playing?
That's tough to say nowadays because not back then you just couldn't transfer and go wherever you
Sure.
wanted to. So
Sure.
I was kind of tied into it. So that world back then was totally different than the world it is today. And so I literally knew it was either if I want to play football, I have to find a way to cope with this and move on past it and move in a different way than what I was moving before. And to where now today it's like, okay, if you don't like the community that you're in, you could just up and go and you can find somewhere else, you know. And so yeah, it's hard to, just because everything is different now. If I had lived in today's time, yeah, that would have been out of there. As soon as the transfer portal would have opened up, I would have been immediately gone. But I would have had to either go down to like a Division 2 or NAIA or something like that. I wouldn't have, or I would have had to sit out, go to like a bigger school and sit out for a whole year, or. So it's the NCAA is totally different now than what it is back then. So
Sure, sure. So then that's fair too, because I mean at that point you really didn't have any other option if you wanted to continue to play, and so you kind of just gutted it out. And I'm glad you did. I mean, obviously, it seemed to be able to work out and kind of teach you some lessons. I guess what would be the biggest lesson that you learned during your time at Idaho State, having gone through those struggles at the beginning, and I'm sure there's others throughout the course of your career over there. But like, what was one of the biggest things that you learned living in Pocatello and playing football and going through the whole entire college football world?
I would say looking back at it now is like it seemed like back then I was just this new face. Now that I've put my face in like, all over Pocatello pretty much, and I've been everywhere. I know several people. Um, I don't get pulled over anymore. So it's like everybody knows who I am now. So I guess like, man, just stick it out and just find the best, make the best of it. Try to find that core group if you're on a team, or even in like if you're just a regular student. Just find a core group of kids that you can relate to and that you can, have fun and enjoy, that 4 to 5 years that you're going to be there with. So yeah, stick it out, would be my biggest message.
No, that's awesome, man. During your time at Idaho State, I guess what was like, tell me about one of your favorite memories and like whether it be a game, a practice, something that happened. I would love to hear about one of your favorite memories, and then I'll ask you another question on the other side of that here in a second. But I would love to hear one of your favorite memories.
Ooh, I got. Let's see. I'll go back to my red shirt. So I was I redshirted my first year. So during that first fall camp, so my very first year here, man, I played phenomenal. I had maybe 10 interceptions just in fall camp, and the next guy may have had one or two. And so we have our third scrimmage, like that third and final scrimmage. Like, man, I'm trying to ball out. The main reason why was because our first game was versus San Diego State. And I was like, I can't let my family already had bought tickets and stuff. And so like literally I'm busting my butt through in that first fall camp, like trying to make every single play that I could just to be able to be like a true freshman and be able to go on that first trip. And so like the newspaper on our third scrimmage, I had 3 interceptions and just that one. And so I just completely was like, I was dominant, just coming in. And so they write an article up and, oh, he's going to be a true freshman. We've got, he's going to do some good things for us. And then they decide it was mainly because they said mainly my age. They were like, oh, we can pretty much keep this guy an extra year. And instead of letting him go when he's 20, we'll keep him until he's 21, basically. Um, so yeah, I redshirted that year, but that was the biggest thing. I just remember just grinding it out, like going crazy on. I was just there was no. I don't think I had a ball caught on me in camp. It was just just intercepted every ball that came my way, literally.
So did you even get to travel to San Diego?
No, I didn't. So that
Oh,
was like the frustrating part was like, but yeah, I came in so motivated just because of that. Yeah, my family, like they bought the tickets before we had even started camp and stuff like that. They were just like, they just knew I was going to make it. And so it was kind of like a surprise. And I kept telling them like how good practices were going and everything like that. So yeah, I ended up just watching it on TV and that was that. So yeah.
man, crazy. Now, to the opposite of that, though, I want to hear about so having grown up here, DJ, I graduated high school in 2006. And so I followed a lot of the sports teams around here, followed a lot of the college football. Idaho State, I was familiar with. A friend of mine graduated a few years after me. His name was AJ Storms. He also played at Idaho State. And so I've always just kind of kept my eye on them. And now I'm watching how they're doing with Hawkins coaching, trying to see how they're rebuilding the program, trying to get some hype around it. But they never really had a very successful season. It always felt like they were just kind of trying to scratch and claw from the win-loss perspective. But the funny thing is I've talked to other people. Jake Pele was over there, and he's got some awesome stories of when he played. And there's everybody who played there seems to have had a good well, the people I've spoken to have had a good experience. But I want to know, from your perspective, what was one of the hardest things, a failure, so to speak, that maybe you experienced during your college career, and how did you get back from that?
My biggest failures. So I'll say this: I think I ended up with 28 deflections, and so one of my biggest failures was just like dropping. Like literally, and those 28 were not like, those slants come in and you're swinging past and knocking the ball down. No, they were like right to my face,
Oh,
And so it was like trying to like juggle like that, like, because it mentally will like get into your head. Like I dropped 3 in one game, 3 plays back to back. We played Northern Colorado inside a Holt Arena. I have a struggle. I didn't know I was like blind. Now I wear glasses and stuff, and I didn't know I was like blind back then. And so literally he like almost the third one, it was almost like he was like trying to hand it off to me, like, hey, here, like take it, and I like still dropped it. So that was one of my biggest struggles. Was then and then all of a sudden, like, how football is, like in the locker room they start to talk about you, they call you butterfingers, they say, oh, you drop everything. And so mentally you're battling with that. Every single time the ball's in the air, you're like, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. And so you're starting to catch the ball weird. You're just not doing everything right. So it just took time to like get past that like mental kind of barrier that I kind of put up against myself. Just because I think I was just hard on myself. And after that first one I dropped, it was just like, "Ah, dropped one. Dropped another one, just kept on dropping them. But I still would always like lead the Big Sky. In interceptions, but it was just like I still was dropping so many. So I look back at it. I ended up with 15 career interceptions. The record was 17 career.
oh,
And so I
wow.
always look at that and it's just like, man, I had plenty of opportunities. Like it was my record to have, and just being like too shy of it. And so yeah, so I'm like the third all-time leader and I hate that. So
No, I'm sure. But hey, you know what? That's really interesting though, because for a DB, that would be almost the comparison of like a kicker getting what they call the yips or something, where they can't, all of a sudden they like Mike Vanderjagt was an amazing kicker, and all of a sudden he missed like 2 game winners, and
yeah.
he all of a sudden forgot how to kick, right? So he never got it back, but there's a lot of them that do. They figure it out, right? But the DB, when they start calling like, there's a reason you're a DB, not a receiver, and you're like, well, no, I know how to catch. I was a receiver. I know,
Yeah.
but it starts messing with you mentally. I'm sure it's like a whole process, but you obviously had to. I mean, there's some things you wish you could take back now, but one thing I would take from this, as you're talking about it, DJ, is the fact that you had 20 plus opportunity, like deflections, and a lot of those you could have just caught. How were you always in the right spot? So obviously there's something to it because you got to play at the next level. But I want to understand that, like, what's your tricks from a technical standpoint? Is it watching film? Is it just understanding the game? Does it come naturally to you? Is it because you played receiver so you know where receivers are going? What was it that always allowed you to be in the right spot, whether you caught the ball or not?
Yeah, so I'll touch a little bit on it, but it's pretty much a part of it's my the way I was able to be successful, and it was also my failure as we go later on into kind of my career. So ever since I was little, so starting in seventh grade when I started playing corner, all I did if they had a number one receiver, I would follow that number one receiver. So if he goes to the right, I go to the right. If he goes to the left, I go to the left, whichever way that goes. So watching film, I was only watching one guy. I didn't have to watch, like, say, the other corner to the backside of me. Like, he had to watch multiple receivers, had to know multiple things that were going on. I only had to know one guy. Um, and so I always followed that one guy. So this is the receiver that they throw to multiple times per game. So I'm covering number one receiver, every team's number one receiver. So that's why there's such a bulk load of passes that were thrown my way. Because even though we're putting our best guy on him, this is also our best guy too. We're going to throw to him. We're going to try. We think our guy is better than him. And so it's just like always a battle with number one receivers. All I did my whole career from seventh grade to my senior year of college.
Wow. No, that's cool that you stepped up on it, though. Was there a DB that you looked up to, like a Deion Sanders or anybody of that nature during that era that you kind of like enjoyed watching to like try to take that mentality?
So my favorite DB of all times is his old school, Merton Hanks. And so a lot of people
Oh,
don't know about him. My
neck.
mom was a 49er fan, and so I had this long neck as a kid. And so I just remember like watching 49er games, he would just pick everything. Like he would just intercept everything. And even though he was a safety, it was still like, man, like, and then he'd do his neck dance and everything like that. And I remember like on my very first interception, I was like, I did that like after I got the interception. So I'm this little, well, I must have been 11 at the time, with the big bobblehead, helmet on, doing the Merton Hanks dance. So Merton Hanks, Charles Woodson, and then Deion Sanders, I would say would be my number three.
Oh, dude, that was a good era of football for DBs, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
freaking hated Merton Hanks. I was a Cowboys fan. I still am a Cowboys
Okay.
fan. But dude, watching it, there was a game on a Sunday afternoon. I skipped church. My mom let me skip church to kind of watch the game. And within the first 3 possessions, I think it was, or 4 possessions, he had 2 pick sixes and then a fumble return. And he kept doing his little thing. And I
Yeah.
was a little kid just freaking so mad, dude. I was so mad at him.
Yeah.
But he was so good. And then I
Yeah.
actually got to watch him in a charity basketball tournament. Like he came for a charity basketball game against the cops versus the former players. And they
Yeah.
came to Idaho, and it was kind of a cool little experience. But yeah, he was a good dude. He was nasty, dude. That's cool. I
Yeah,
haven't
it's
heard that
usually
name
a
for a time.
surprise answer for a lot of people. Not a lot of people don't even think of him being one of the best, but I love it. He would be, I would say he was my like kind of like the reason I wanted to start playing football. Like really, I would give him almost 100% of the credit of why I wanted to actually start playing.
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, DJ, you mentioned like further on in your career, you said failures later on in your career. You were kind of alluding to this. Let's talk about some of that as we get to the next steps. You finished at Idaho State. Talk to us about that next step into the journey of playing professional football.
Yeah. So the biggest change with like NFL is that it's just so much faster.
Yeah.
So I honestly had never been on the field with anybody faster than me. And then all of a sudden I go to the NFL and there's people that are just as fast, like a couple, I would maybe say one or two that were faster. Um, and so just adjusting to the speed. But as far as me talking about like kind of like the struggles that I had was that the simple fact that all I did my whole life was chase one receiver. And now the film study is totally different. I'm writing down 5 to 8 different receivers on paper and watching 5 to 8 different receivers on film and trying to study and trying to get everything. But I knew in like college when it worked for me, it was like, okay, they come out on trips, it's third and long. If I see a bubble by number 2, I know that I know that number 1 receiver is going to do this. I know that number 3 is going to end up doing this. Like, and so I kind of was learning and knew like basically what was going to come at me. But now that you got to look at the whole field, And I also started playing nickel because of my size. I'm 6'2". I was 6'2", 210, 215-ish. And so I had to start playing nickel as well. And that was also a struggle. Like I mean, they talk about corner being the toughest position. There's not a tougher position than like actual nickel, because nickel's coming in on usually like a passing situation, and to cover those little small slots. Every slot, is almost 6 foot or shorter. So to cover, that's kind of my kryptonite too, is a receiver that's smaller than me. I'll take on a 6'4" receiver any day, but you throw out a Julian Edelman or something like that, a 5 foot, 10 or 5'9" kind of receiver. Like that's tough to deal with in that slot nickel position. So yeah, that was kind of what I was meaning as far as my failures, is that I just like never really fully learned football. A lot of the times in football growing up, I was playing man. I didn't play a ton of zone growing up. Um, and just because I was able to usually handle myself with that, whoever that number one receiver was, we were able to like blitz and just play cover one literally most of the time was what we were doing. So yeah, that's kind of my failure right there. So
Man, that's tough though. That is tough. Like it's a whole nother transition. Do you take that with you now to this era that you're in of coaching? Or are you coaching younger kids to where it's like you still don't need them to learn the full game as far as like being well rounded? Or how do you feel like you're taking what you learned there to help prepare the kids at a younger age now, I guess?
so yeah, just simply raising my son. Started coaching him when he was second grade, and just always trying to fight the urge to put him on the number one receiver, like trying to like literally just stick him, hey, you are a left corner or a right corner or a field corner or boundary corner, whatever you may be, but I'm not going to make you chase a certain guy, just because I wanted him to fully learn like cover two. I wanted him to fully learn cover three and stuff like that. Man comes easy. It's pretty much you just stay with your guy. But the zone stuff is different. There's little reads and stuff that you need to learn. And so kind of teaching him like football as a whole, instead of just like, hey, they got a good receiver, you're just going to shut him down. And so even though I know he could, it's like I try to avoid that as much as I possibly can.
No, that's cool. No, this is awesome to hear, and I hope other coaches are listening to this right now. DJ, when you were in, the professional world, talk to us. Like, how long were you there for? I remember like reading up that you were with the practice squad of the Packers, and so like, what was it like with that organization? How long did it last? Like, talk to us a little bit about your journey in that realm.
So I was a undrafted free agent. Got picked up by Carolina. Um, I'll talk about the whole process before that, because that's kind of it's so similar to my high school years of being like highly recruited, and then all of a sudden like things just kind of trickled down and kind of fell out of nowhere. But I used to have, gosh, I'd have multiple scouts at practices during the week during college. Would get little letters. You get letters from whether it be the Raiders or whatever team it is, getting like stacks of letter every single day. Them just pretty much just letting them know that they're interested in me. And so I had so much interest. There was 19 scouts at my pro day. And I didn't get invited to the combine, but I was at one point. I remember it always changes. I don't know. At one point, I remember seeing, and there was different sites back then. There was one time I was like a projected third round draft pick. I saw one time I was a projected fifth round draft pick, and that was kind of the lowest I saw before leading into the draft. And so I think maybe so. One problem that I had was that I had like I would get like stingers in my arm almost every single time that I had tackled. And back then it was my right arm would go numb every single time I tackled in college. And so I end up going to Seattle, and they do this full like body like scan, like everything. They put you through everything and they scan everything. And then so it comes out that I've got like a couple bulging discs in my neck and things like that. I end up going to this chiropractor in San Diego. He gets it all cleared up. And then I'm able to do some x-rays and stuff again. But I feel like that was kind of one of the bigger things that kind of dropped my stock, was that I remember one of the Green Bay scouts telling me, because he went to school with my mom in high school, so he had talked to me a little bit, and he was like, "You're just damaged. You're damaged goods. You're good, but you've got some damage to you, and the neck is like one of the most serious things. And so a little bit of an injury to your neck kind of dropped my stock. And so I went down right before the draft. They had me as a projected 7th round, more free agent. I started getting some calls in the 6th round, and then it was just like, oh, we might take you on our next pick. Next pick comes up and it's like a punter. I'm like, oh, what? Like, and so just going through and like thinking that I was going to go somewhere big and that I was going to get drafted. And then all of a sudden I'm getting, having to choose. I had to choose between Carolina, Arizona, Cleveland Browns, Patriots, and Baltimore Ravens. So those were my 5 teams that contacted me after the draft. And pretty much my agent kind of was the one that made the choice to go to Carolina. Of course, I'm a West Coast guy, so I would have chose, Arizona, but just to kind of stay closer to home and everything. So, but Carolina was great. That's where I started off at, and uh, biggest thing that was tough. Very first day of one-on-ones, covering Steve Smith, and man, it was like he ran a post, and it was just like he just moved me every single direction that he wanted me to. Like he just kept on stemming me. And the NFL, posts are not 8 yards and then you post. It's basically get open and then you're gonna post and you're gonna move me and until I open up my hips, that's when you're gonna go. So man, we're going, and he's moving me every single way. And it's not like he just blew me out. Like I was right there making a play on the ball, but it was just like, dang, I can't believe he just like did it. Whatever he wanted, he whatever he wanted to do, he did to me in that rep. So yeah, it's crazy.
He's nasty, dude. People
Oh
forget
yeah,
about him, man. He was
yeah,
nasty for as small as he was, dude. He was so incredibly efficient.
oh yeah.
So over there during that time, I guess, how did camp go? And like, how did the whole process go? How long, like that in and of itself, to me, when I've spoken to former, football players, when they get into the NFL and they're one of the hinge players, where they're trying to like find a team, they're trying to get to somebody, they're trying to figure out if they can make a roster or a practice squad, whatever it is. There's a whole stress level that comes with that. So I'm just like curious, were you kind of enjoying the moment because you were there, or was it an anxiety ridden like camp trying to see if you'd make a roster?
No, it's stressful. It's stressful. A ton of anxiety every single day. Even just walking into the stadium, sometimes there's a certain guy that will stand outside of the front door, and if you are being cut that day, he is there to greet you right at the door and come walk you to your locker to go get your playbook and everything like that. So that's stressful. You pull into the parking lot and you see that guy at the front door, and you're like, "Dang, did I have a bad practice yesterday? Like, what did I do wrong?" And so it's just like when you're at the bottom like that. Now if you're at the top and you're a starter and things like that, things are more secure. But when you're at the bottom, you don't know, like, if you're going to make it to the next day. You really don't. You wake up and you're just like just praying like, "Oh, I hope like today is not my day." So I made it through the whole fall camp and everything. It's stressful, and the hardest part is like you really don't know like how well you're doing. There's nobody that really communicates to you and says, "Oh, you're doing a great job." You just know by the way that you're getting like reps. And so all of a sudden, like when your reps like start to really dwindle down, then it's kind of like a sign like, "Oh man, like something's up here. Like something is not right." And so kind of towards that last like week, going into that 4th preseason game back then, you can kind of feel it a little bit. They ended up keeping me for an extra day. Um, like I was on the border. They were like, "Oh, we might keep you, we might not." And I'm just like, and then all of a sudden I stay, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna send you home." And so, yeah, man, it's stressful. It's stressful. I definitely would not say me personally. I don't say football is fun. Football is it's enjoy. There's things that are enjoyable. Running 100, 100% into another guy your same size or bigger. I don't consider that fun, but yeah. So it definitely stressful.
Man, that is tough, dude. It almost takes the fun out of it. You grow up, but now when it becomes the business side of things, it's tough, especially when that's your potential livelihood. And how long did you continue to try to, play and make a name for yourself then, DJ, after you get cut from Carolina? Like, what was the process there for, when did you like know, when did you keep playing? And like, at what point did you know it was time to like hang them up as a player and move on to the next steps?
Yeah. So from there, so that the day that I got released from Carolina, I fly back to San Diego, and then the very next day, I end up going to Seattle for a tryout. And so they bring in like six different DBs, and we kind of, they run us through all these different drills and everything like that. And it ended up being like, all right, well, we just brought like they didn't choose any of the six of us. It was like, we just brought you guys here to just see, just in case, if somebody gets hurt, that we can bring one of you guys in. And so I was one of the main ones, and they were like, yeah, if such and such gets hurt, then we'll bring you in. And so literally, like, you're watching every Seattle game, like,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh man, when's my time gonna come? When's my time gonna come? Guy stays healthy. So it ends up being around, I would say, like week 7 or week 8, and I start to get more tryouts. So I go all the way from week 1 to week 7 with nothing. Like, so I actually had even like picked up a new job. I became a car salesman, and so working at one of the dealerships here in Pocatello. And then after that, about week 7, I had a tryout to go to. I went to Buffalo, and I just did not train like I should have been training. Here's the crazy part. They make me, so they're like, all right, line up. It's like 4 of us, 4 DBs. And they're like, we want you to backpedal sideline to sideline. So we backpedal like just straight, boom, 50 yards. They say go back 50 yards. Then they're like backpedal weave for 50 yards. Boom, backpedal weave 50 yards. Backpedal weave for 50 yards back. And they're like backpedal, turn it open and sprint all the way down. Like, so it's like literally like it was conditioning, and I was literally gassed after the very first, like, just backpedal 50 and back. I was gassed. I was done. Like, my legs were just like so heavy, so tight. You've been traveling all day long. I'm going from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. And so I just was not like prepared like I should have been. And I was not expecting a tryout like that. But then that further on helped me into every other tryout after that. So I think 2 weeks later after that, I go to Green Bay and I do a tryout there. And I literally, for that 2 weeks in between, I was just like busting my butt. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna like fail again off of something stupid of just like backpedaling for 100 yards. And so I have a great tryout at Green Bay. And then it was kind of like one of those things, oh, if something happens, like just kind of like they just want to get a feel for what's out there. And so they send me back home. And then the very next week, I go to Cincinnati and then do a tryout there, and did great, like did good in that one as well too. And then it was just another one, it was just like another little fill out. And so all of a sudden, like, man, I'm just like going home, end up getting back that week. And then Al Harris ends up getting hurt. He was the Green Bay Packers with the dreads coming out all the way. um, and he ends up getting hurt. So Green Bay calls me up. Boom, hey, can you come in? We need you in, by this. Can you fly in on Monday and everything like that? So they get me flown in, and then that's kind of pretty much my story on how I ended up getting to Green Bay. Yeah.
That was not the story I was expecting. That sounds like, to me, like one of those back pedal weaves, like
Uh-huh.
almost like there's a whole roundabout way to get to Green Bay. Holy cow. And you know what? This is cool though. You've got to experience a couple different organizations across the country and
Yeah.
see kind of how each one of them's ran in a certain way. So
Yep.
when you're at Green Bay though, I guess talk to me about the positives of that. Like when you get to go over there, you're kind of working with them. Did you have a good experience while you were there?
Yeah, it was great. So I came in, and I've always played gunner on punt, and so I remember that very first practice. I'm just killing it at gunner, like, and then like it was almost like in NFL you get double teamed, and so I'm getting off every single double team. I'm the first one down there, forcing everything, and so they had actually told me the it was like a game time decision. I think they were playing the Seahawks that week, and they're telling me to wait in the locker room basically, and I'm waiting for to hear if this guy is going to be able to play or not. And if he wasn't going to be able to play, then they were going to pull me in to play gunner and everything like that. And so end up still just not getting on the field. And it was kind of one of those other like wishful moments, like, man, I was like so close, like I'm trying, like I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to make it. And so that was my thing. It was like trying to get on like special teams, whatever I need to do to make it, like I'm gonna try to make it somehow. So that was the fun part. It was actually fun. Great group of guys. I mean, that was the year right before they won the Super Bowl. And I even knew when I got released, I was like, man, there's like, I mean, everything they had, every single thing there that they needed to win a Super Bowl. And it was that DB room was just so competitive. When I was there, and you got Hall of Famers there. You got like a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of Pro Bowlers that were on the team at that time. Yeah, so it was a great experience. Met a lot of cool people. It was a good time.
Dude, that's really cool though. Like you got to do something that like it's only 1% of people get to do that play the sport of football, and get to be
Mhm.
part of a professional roster. So, DJ, I guess what my next question would be then is like, how much longer did it go? What was it like when, not getting to go back, I guess, essentially. So what was
Yeah.
the next steps in your professional journey?
So I finished off that season. So my rookie year, I finished off with Green Bay on practice squad, and then was with them all through mini camps and OTAs, and then all the way through the end of training camp. Then is another one of those things that kept me a couple of days after to see if if I was going to get put on the team or not. And then ended up going back home, did a couple more tryouts in Baltimore and Miami, and then from there it was silent. So it was like nothing else after that. I ended up getting a call to see if I would want to play in the CFL. So I got a contract to play in Montreal. And then I ended up hurting my neck, like literally training, just working out. And I was on a Smith machine with way too much weight that I probably shouldn't have had. Did like a little weird movement with my head. Started driving back home and can feel like that little stinger feel that I would always get in my right arm, except for like was not going away. And so it was like I had all this numbness in my right arm. And and I was like, dang, it's just not going. So I went all the way up to my trap. It was on my trap and it was going all the way down, all the way to my fingertips. And so still to this day, I don't have I've got like numbness in the tips of my fingertips. And and so from there, I was like, I had to cancel my Montreal. Like I was like, I can't make it. Like there's no way I'm gonna be able to play. And so that was it. That was the end of it right there. So pretty much NFL time went from that whole um, getting picked up as an undrafted free agent until that my basically would be my second year. That end of that training camp. I actually have another cool story.
I'd love
I'm
to
just
hear it.
gonna tell you this is it's not a cool story. It kind of sucks, but it's cool if like people love to hear it. So Green Bay is playing the Bears in the NFC Championship right before the game before the Super Bowl, and somebody gets hurt the week before that. I forget who it was, but they end up getting hurt, and so they're like, "All right, we need to bring a DB in." Then they called me up. They're like, "You're the only DB that knows our playbook, and I can come in at this time. So we're gonna fly you in for a tryout." So they fly me in. I'm the only DB, and then they bring a receiver for some reason. So I go through the tryout. Boom, do great. And they tell me a guy named Reggie McKenzie. He's like, all right, we're gonna send your agent all the paperwork. We're gonna get you your practice jersey, all ready to go. Get you out to practice as soon as we can. Get you out with the team. So I'm waiting in this room. 30 minutes passes. He comes in with his head down, and he's like, well, McCarthy decided he wanted to go with the receiver. I was just like, what? And he's like, you know what? Sometimes it's not about who's the best. Um, Sometimes it's just about what's needed. But then it was confusing. It was like a DB goes down, and you tell me like a receiver is what's needed. And so I was all confused and like frustrated. I hated the Packers for years because I was
Oh
like,
wow,
man,
yeah.
like because I was like, man, that was my Super Bowl chance. Like I get to be on, whether I play in that game or not. Like, man, that was my opportunity to play NFC Championship and then go play in the Super Bowl. And so yeah, that's kind of how it all ended. The whole NFL part right there.
Whoa, dude. I'm glad you shared that. That was a big piece of that we didn't hear.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
crap, dude. So I guess DJ, from competing since the time you were 10 years old in the 6th grade, going all through the anxiety, the struggles of just trying to get there, that you had the ups and downs of your recruiting into college. You had the ups and downs of getting, drafted and going undrafted into the NFL, and then going through the preseason and trying to figure this out, workouts, tryouts, everything. that situation you just mentioned. Then you hurt your neck. I mean, everything. So the CFL doesn't turn out for you. When all was said and done, I guess that was kind of what your life up until that point had been built on, right? You've been building up. How do you go about the transition after sport as a going from the athlete to the I guess you could say to the next part, right? How do you go from that without spiraling into a deep depression, I guess? And if you went through some mental battles, how did you get through them? Because there's a lot of athletes that struggle with that specific piece. Because nobody typically, some people get to go out the way they want to, not a lot. Not everyone gets to go out the way they want to. So it's not always like riding off to the sunset. So how do you go about that transition?
Yeah, no, I call it life after football. And it's just it was tough. So I would say maybe the best part for me was that when after the Green Bay time, I ended up moving back to San Diego, literally living with my mom, working for my grandpa, doing his plumbing business. And I get a call from one of my professors, and they're like, "Hey, we're looking for some people that want to join and get their masters. Would you be interested in coming back to school and getting your masters?" So I end up moving back to Pocatello. Um, I go on, get my master's. It was a year-long program, 3 semesters and everything. So I go get my master's. And then that was kind of like the whole transition into kind of being just not doing anything with sports and everything. So I got my master's in athletic administration, and then started working back to the car dealership right after I graduated from there. So I went back to the car dealership, same one. Was working there, and then I had a buddy that came to just kind of BS and test drive a car, and just so we can hang out. And he tells me about this job that he had started, and so it's at this like kind of like factory type deal. And so I end up applying, and I end up getting it. And then so yeah, I've been in this like factory life for not as an operator. So now I've got this like nice desk job. I end up switching jobs just a couple months ago, working for INL and everything. And so life's been it's good. It definitely, but it took some time. Like it took some time for me to get to where I'm at. But yeah, definitely life is good. So
That is so awesome, though. I mean, it works out, right? But I'm sure it's been hard. And, one thing that just came to my mind, DJ, is I always like to ask athletes, like, what's a skill set that they took from their athletic journey to the regular world, which I would still like to ask you. But I guess something that just kind of turned in my head for the first time in the 9 years of doing this is I wonder if like if you don't leave the way that you want to leave, and and you're in this, and I don't know if you want to call it a depression, but you're in a spiral of like you're just trying to figure out life afterwards. I wonder if you even want to take some of the skills that you learned from sports into the regular life, or if you want to disconnect from that completely. I guess, does that make sense? I don't even know if I'm making sense, but I'm almost wondering in my head, I'm like, I almost wonder if I were in your shoes, if I would even want to like use those skills right now. Cause I'm mad at football. I'm mad at the Packers. I'm just mad at just how things planned out. I'm just kind of done with that. I'm trying to move on. So I don't want to leverage these skill sets that I acquired with like teamwork and leadership and all this stuff. Or I guess, was it one of those things where you're like, well, I can't play anymore, so yeah, let me leverage these skills that I had?
yeah, I definitely think it gets naturally embedded into you. All that like time management is such a big thing, especially like if you play a college sport, that is the biggest thing that you're going to learn, regardless of the sport that you're playing, is time management of having to wake up at 5:30 and then your day really not ending until 10 o'clock at night, and then from there it's like that's your free time, and so now you're not going to bed till midnight because you want to hang out with your buddies for a little bit, and so yeah, time management I would say would be one of the biggest things that I learned. And then yeah, you still never like really lose that like hard work, like that same like little grit that you have with football. I definitely feel like it definitely carried over into like me always wanting to be the best at every single thing that I did. Always like, even though other people don't know I'm competing with them, like I'm always mentally in my head like competing to try to be the best, because I'm looking for that next opportunity to like always continue to rise in my career. And so always trying to like just outshine everybody. So
No, I love that, dude. I love it. I can picture you, and I know you mentioned like this isn't what you wish you would have done more on the film study side and just learn the game of football. But I'm almost picturing you in your profession right now, your career, trying to figure out your opponent or like whatever that person, that top receiver is that you're following to cover. Like I almost picture you like doing that in your career, and whatever that means in your career. Like I can guard that guy, I can lock him down, or I can play cover 2 over here. Just figuring that piece out. Like that's your version of it. I think that's really cool though, man. I think that even if it didn't go out the way that you wanted it to, you can still take those things, and I commend you for it. I think it's cool. Like you take those things, you leverage them. I always like as a marketing director at the company I work for, and I've been in leadership in the marketing world for the last decade. And it's like, when I work with athletes, it's not that they're always the best employees, but there is a difference in them. Like they're coachable. If I need to give them feedback, there's no back talk. There's no rolling of their eyes. It's just simply like, okay, yeah, like I get it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that. It's almost like they just comprehend things a little differently and they just do it. And so I've always appreciated that working with athletes myself. So DJ, is now that you're in the coaching world, I've heard about you. I believe it was Trey Lott, if I'm not mistaken, who actually had given me your number and had me reach out to you. Shout out to him, by the way. I want to remind everybody that was awesome of him to do that. You're in the coaching side of things. What's the biggest difference between coaching and playing?
Controlling your aggression. That's probably one of the biggest things. I coach 7-on-7. I coach track. I was coaching basketball for a little bit. Man, I've touched just about everything, regular football, high school football. So just really trying to, man, I'm so passionate about it that sometimes it can get like taken like the wrong way. And not to the kids. The kids that actually understand it, but it's to the adults don't get it. Like kids, oh, the kids love me. But sometimes like, and I can yell at a kid and then they'll be like stupid. Like they don't mean really get like, I don't mean yell at them in like a certain way. It's more of a teaching yelling. And so it's not like actually ever like demeaning a kid. And so they always like respond like so well. But there's only like certain things that'll make me yell. Like if a kid doesn't want to tackle, that'll make me yell, like little things like that. So it's kind of like that passion and that aggression that I have with football is like, that's that kind of always been I've been coaching for about 12 years now. And that's been the balance I've been trying to get. Like, oh man, I don't want to make anybody mad, but I also want to like compete at a super high level, so.
Dude, I'm smiling because that's how I am as a basketball coach. You can ask anybody that I coach with or for Idaho Premier. I coach club ball, and I'm known as they call me the Shaniac. That's a nickname. They made hats out of it because I never yell at the play. I'm not like that with the players, but you get me a referee, or if we make a good shot, so I'll make sure people hear it. I get pretty stoked still too. So I smile when you mention passion, and I too am trying to figure that out, that balance, right? Of just being like, okay. Because sometimes the parents are like, is he for real? I'm like, yeah, I'm for real. These kids work hard, dude. And like, that's a sick play he just made. Like, that's freaking awesome. But and then when the referees want to back talk and start chirping, then that, I always have I'm working on that too. So, oh man, dude, this is super awesome, DJ. So if you look back at your whole career and even up till now, I want to ask this question now, looking at where you're at right now. Life's just getting started, baby. You got a lot going on. You got some things to work towards, I'm sure. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ooh, so me and my wife have really actually just been talking about this. She has really like, especially this year. So this is my first year where I'm not coaching high school football in the last 6 years. And so we've been sitting up in the stands and she's hearing me talk and stuff like that. And so she's like, and not in a sarcastic way, she's like, you need to get back into coaching somehow, some way. My job is kind of weird. I don't get back into Pocatello until about 7 o'clock. And so I don't have time to coach, but they told me there's some things that I can shift around. So as far as in the future, I'm looking actually to head coach. I only want to be a head coach. I don't want to have an assistant at all. So I want to be a head coach. I'm looking somewhere in that whole District 6 kind of Idaho Falls area on going there. We live in Pocatello, but we're going to end up, my job's in Idaho Falls. So we're going to end up moving to Idaho Falls. And so kind of wanting to kind of put some roots down in Idaho Falls and see what opportunities open up for head coaches in the next couple months. So,
ooh, I might have to clip this out. Make sure we post on the social media for the resume there, like job application.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it, DJ, to see kind of where you go, and I'm rooting for you too. Now, like I think it's awesome, and I know it will happen eventually when it's supposed to happen. It will happen. You've got the drive, you got the knowledge, you got the passion behind it all, and I think whatever school you end up at, wherever you end up coaching, they're gonna be blessed to have you there, man. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join me tonight and share your story. I'm looking forward to posting this out here so everybody can hear it. And I really appreciate your insights and your wisdom.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It was awesome.
Heck yeah, sir. And for all those who are listening, just one quick reminder to hit the follow button because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.